questions and answers for common questions in the Ielts writing test. Recently, I did a one-on-one class with one of my students in Vietnam over Skype, and that's what this video is going to be about. This session went really well. Lots of interesting things came out of this session, such as how to structure your essay, whether to use examples or not to support your main ideas, as well as things such as how to increase your score for vocabulary and grammar in the IELTS writing test. So your first question, you're asking about a background statement. Bad idea, waste of words, no advantage. There is some drawbacks. The main drawback is you might end up changing the topic or just confusing the reader about what the topic is. So get rid of it. No need for a background sentence. You only really want 2 sentences for your introduction. The first sentence will paraphrase the topic, okay, whatever the topic is, and then the second question is going to respond to whatever the question is. Let me see if I can just show you a topic, and then okay, I can show you what I mean. So we only need 2 sentences. By the way, I divide essays into 3 types. Okay, so the 3 types for me are opinion, just asks for your opinion. Both sides an opinion, asks you to discuss 2 sides of something and give your opinion. And then 2 question essays, just asking you like causes and solutions, or problems and solutions, or opinions and some other question. So if we consider the task instructions, there's a topic. So this one, okay, so this one, you just have to look over to the left. Computers are being used more and more in education, and some say there will be no role for the teacher. That's the topic. You want to paraphrase that, 1 sentence, and then the question response. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Say what your opinion is and maybe why, maybe the main reasons for your opinion going in. So your introduction should only be 2 sentences. Is that clear? Okay, then question 2. Should I always include one idea only in a paragraph? It really depends on the type of essay. So if we come back to our types of essays, and one of the things I urge you to do is to get familiar with these different types of questions. So so if we've got these 3 types, the only one where so an opinion essay, normally 1 idea per paragraph seems to work well. 1 idea per body paragraph. For the other 2 types of essays, I would have 2 ideas in each paragraph. Okay, so like the both sides an opinion. When you're covering one side of the argument, I'd try and have 2 main ideas. And when you're covering the other side, 2 main ideas. And often that actually specifically asks for 2. So discuss the advantages and disadvantages. So you want 2 advantages in one body paragraph, 2 disadvantages in another body paragraph. So I mean, you don't want 4 body paragraphs. You asked me about this somewhere. Could I have 4 body paragraphs? That'd be kind of horrible, because it's only a sort of 250, 300 word essay, and you'd have these small, tiny paragraphs. That would be horrible. All right. So you put the 2 advantages in one paragraph. You put the 2 disadvantages in another paragraph, and then same with a 2 question essay. 2 main ideas for each of the body paragraphs. All right, and then if we look at the questions, again, so what problem does this cause? You might only have 1 idea in that paragraph, I suppose, but I'd probably put 2. And then what are some potential solutions? It's asking you for more than 1 solution. I'd have 2 problems and 2 solutions is what I'd most likely do with that. So another way of saying this is the opinion essay is normally going to have 1 idea per paragraph. All the other types are going to have 2. Just so you know, there's not really too many hard and fast rules. There's not too many precise rules. examiners aren't instructed about ideal structures or this essay must be structured this way. They've just got the grading criteria. When I'm giving you feedback in your writing, I'm trying to give you the safest options. So not necessarily 100% you have to do it that way, but I'm just trying to guide you towards what I think are the best ways. Okay, next question. Are there any formulas to apply to develop paragraphs coherently? Yeah, there sort of are. So, I mean, one of the rules about paragraphs is an idea of unity. There should only be one main idea to the paragraph. So you might have sort of two advantages, but the main idea is advantages. We wouldn't mix the advantages of online education with disadvantages in the same paragraph. That would break the law of unity. But we can have a main idea of advantage, and then, like we're saying, have 2 points to support that. So we want paragraph unity. And then the other thing that normally happens in paragraphs is we go from like general to specific, general to more specific. So we might have a topic sentence that tells the reader the paragraphs about advantages. So there are many advantages of online education. And then you get more specific, convenience, and then even more specific. We can study any time and any place we want. And then maybe even example. For example, I'm studying Ielts, and I often study in a coffee shop because I like the atmosphere, but sometimes I also study at my mother's work because I have to wait for her to catch a ride home. So we go from like general to specific. Does that make sense?
Okay, see.
So those are a couple of rules: unity and general to specific. And then the other thing is look at some of my model answers and see how I develop the paragraphs and see how different topics or more particularly different question types get developed in different ways.
Is it necessary to include examples all the time when we write? Because I just heard many people say that it's really important to include examples, or if not, the score can be reduced.
No, the examiners aren't given any specific guidance on examples. You don't have to have them. I always say that you can develop your main ideas in 3 ways. You can explain them. So you can say that the main merit of studying online is the convenience, and then explain the convenience. You can give examples. So give an example like I did earlier about studying at your mother's work while you wait for her, or in a cafe. You can add details. So you can just sort of add, you can mention maybe the convenience and then add details about the convenience, how you can study at any time and any place. So there's really 3 ways. The 3 ways are to explain, to give examples, and to add details.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Should I make up the data in the writing?
Absolutely not. I've just been writing about that. I absolutely detest that. So you mean like some sort of fake research, right?
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. You know, a recent study at Cambridge University found that 18% is total garbage. I know some people recommend it. It's absolutely horrible. Most of the examiners are academics. They've got academic backgrounds. It's an academic sin to make up research. So
Yeah.
it's not a good idea. It's not going to help your score. It's possibly going to hurt it. I absolutely detest it. I hate it when people do that. And it doesn't exactly lower the score. There's nothing in the grading criteria specifically about that, but I just think it's not a good way of developing a paragraph, so I limit score for cohesion and coherence about it, and I'm just looking for any excuse to lower the score. It's a kind of like dirty trick to be trying to do, and I find it insulting that I'm expected to believe that the writer has read all these wonderful studies and just happens to know, and then sometimes people really stuff up the statistics and they give a percentage that's just totally impossible. Just wouldn't even be true, and that's even worse. So stay away from that. It's the worst way to try and develop your main ideas. Horrible, absolutely horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, that's not a good thing. All right. So then we move on to vocabulary. Okay. So I really had 3 ideas under vocabulary. Maybe you can see them here. So the first one is you don't want to be making mistakes with words. That's going to be noticeable by the examiner, misuse words. And part of this is collocation. So collocation is about certain words going together. So we talk about tall people, but we don't talk about tall salaries. It'd be a high salary. So that's called collocation, and normally tall with physical things we can see and touch like a person, and then intangibles like a salary. We use high. So the examiner's going to notice those, and that's going to have a negative impact on your score. And if you're just practicing, if you're sending me tasks for correction and you want to challenge yourself, that's fine. But don't take too many risks in the test. You can't just have basic vocabulary only, though. Getting to 7 requires showing some talent. So what should you do? Well, definitely try and use the words you do know and practice using words you know, and even look at topics and think, okay, if these are my task instructions, how would I answer it, and what vocabulary could I use to impress the examiner? So spend some time trying to sort of self-elicit vocabulary, trying to maybe brainstorm words you already know around a topic, so that these words will come out when you have your test. And we can know some of the sort of common topics, things like education, health, what else have we got? Sort of social issues to do with ageing populations and environmental issues. So you can brainstorm around some of those common topics that we see coming up a lot. And then the last suggestion, maybe you can learn a bit of vocabulary, especially for the common topics. So like education, we can learn words like curriculum, education, pedagogy. We can just learn a few phrases, not too many, maybe 10 for a topic, because the idea is to use the phrases. If you try and learn like 100 words for a topic, you just won't remember them when it comes to the test, or at worst you'll misuse them. So about 10 for, say, 6 topics. The media is another common topic. You mentioned linking words, so definitely want to have some linking words. Like that's onto question 5 where you're talking about adverbs as cohesive devices. I've given you a link there too to my website, because I have some links there. They don't have to just be adverbs. So we got like try not to do lists too, like firstly, secondly, finally, not so great. You could have maybe like firstly, the second reason is, that's fine. So yeah, you can use a few of those. Idiomatic expressions are good, but don't use informal ones. So you've got to be careful with those. All right, and it is good to use adverbs. It's good to use adverbs to modify adjectives as well. So instead of just saying there's been an...
It's kind of highly beneficial kind of thing.
Yeah, like that. Instead of an increase in violence on TV, a sharp increase or a dramatic increase. So that, yeah, it's good to modify. Are you doing the academic test?
Academic?
Yeah, you're doing academic or general?
Yeah.
Academic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to have some language for trends. So you need to learn some adverbs and adjectives for that. And then you can often use those in your essays, and you should. So you should use words like dramatic increase and sharp rise, fluctuation. You should use some of that language because you're learning it anyway for task 1. Why not show it for task 2?
Yeah, I see. It's very clear. I'm just wondering, because in one of my essays, when I ask you about the use of a word, and they said that word is not used in real context anymore. So it's a hard, right? Because I'm not in the country, I'm not in this country, so it's really hard to know if that word can be used or should be normally used in that country.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yep.
Are there any way to improve it? Because I still want to learn some formal words, and the only way is looking up in dictionary, but sometimes dictionary can't be trusted because the words is outdated.
The words are
Or just
outdated.
yeah. Or used in literature only.
All right, so the general advice when learning English is to try and learn words in context. So rather than like thinking of a word in your language, going to a dictionary and trying to find what it means in English, that often ends up in some very poor results, and it comes back to word choices. So the better way is to learn something in context. Read something like I'll give an example. A lot of people do badly with topics about crime, because they don't have a lot of language about crime, and it's a fairly common topic. So what I would say is read some Ielts essays about crime, and if you come across a word that you think is interesting and you want to know the meaning of it, look it up, and that word's probably okay. And then you learn the word in context. You know how to use it. So if you read about juvenile delinquency is kind of like problems with young kids. They often don't turn up to school and things like that. So we've got juvenile delinquency. If you read that in context and then learn what that is, that's much better than you just try and translate something from your language. So that's sort of a way to avoid that issue. You end up with much, much better result. And at the same time, you're kind of seeing how the essay is structured and things like that. So learn language in context. About the summary of main ideas and the conclusion. Normally that's what you're going to be doing. Okay? If it's asking for your opinion, summarise the reasons for your opinion. Restate your opinion in the conclusion. I totally agree that the government's responsible. Then summarise the reasons. If possible, paraphrase them. Show the examiner your ability to rephrase things that will help your score for vocabulary. Doesn't mean you're going to jump up a band, but it's helpful. It's helpful for getting that band 8. A lot of people feel, but it's repetitive. I already told the reader this. Yeah, but this is just how we structure essays. The introduction says what you're going to say. The body says it. The final paragraph summarises it. We usually do the same with speeches as well. All right. So yeah, it normally will. Now, both sides an opinion. I like the last final paragraph to be your opinion. In this case, your opinion might not summarise the whole of the body. So if you had 4 points in the body of the essay, you might not summarise all of that. You might just summarise some of it. You might summarise the side you support. You might, if it's about advantages and disadvantages of studying online, you might say that you totally support studying online because of the low cost and convenience. And that might be enough. How the score's calculated? Easy. It's 1/3 for task 1, 2/3 for task 3. And then tiebreakers get rounded down. So 6.75 would be rounded down and not up. So what that means is if you get 7 for task 1 and 6.5 for task 2, you'll have 6.75, you'll get 6.5, right? So a 6.5 for your task 2 means you need 7.5 for your task 1. 7 wouldn't be enough. Whereas if we flip it the other way round and you get 6.5 for task 1 and 7 for your essay, you'll have, I think it's 6.83, and 6.83 gets rounded up, so you'll have 7. All right, so that's how the score's calculated, always the same way. About the grading criteria, each one's worth 25%. However, when people's score is changing, like they keep taking tests and they say, my score goes up and down, it's not normally vocabulary and grammar. It's normally task response, cohesion and coherence. Those are the two that fluctuate. Those are the two that you want to put most of your energy on to really be able to read task instructions and know how to respond to them, and also to know how to structure your essays. I've talked about 3 types of essays: the opinion essay, both sides an opinion, 2 question essays. Build up structures for these 3 types of essays. Know how you're going to answer these questions before you go into the test room. So hopefully this video has been of benefit to you, and hopefully you learnt something from the answers that I gave to the students' questions. Remember that if you wanted to have a one-on-one session, or if you wanted to get your writing corrected, there's links for that in the description below this video. What you might like to do now is look at my next video on how to prepare for different types of essays and how to prepare different structures and even templates of language for dealing with the different types of questions that we get in the Ielts writing test. So that's the next video that's going to appear now.